A group of hedge funds are now conspiring a plan that would cut off about $1 billion meant to help victims of the opioid epidemic. Now, the plan would allow the hedge funds to keep the cash that was meant to be allocated to these victims for themselves. So how will this happen? Now, it's important to understand a little bit of context. Let's go back and talk a little bit about a particular opioid manufacturer, okay? So at the center of this story is drug manufacturer Mallinckrodt, which was the country's largest producer of opioid pills between 2006 and 2014. So they were taken to court for their role in the opioid crisis in the country, and the results of that, case led to a $1.7 billion payout to the victims. Now, court papers filed in 2019 in connection with a federal investigation into the company showed that Mallinckrodt sales representatives discussed how consumers of their opioids were becoming addicted, with one writing the pills were just like Doritos, keep eating, we'll make more. And boy, did they make more, a lot more. So when I say that they were the top opioid producer in the country between 2006 and 2014, here's what I meant. Between 2006 and 2014, the manufacturer made 2.3 billion opioid pills, making it the single largest producer in the United States during that period. And that's according to the Drug Enforcement Agency. And the DEA records later showed that 40%, nearly half, 40% of all opioid pills sold in US pharmacies between 2006 and 2012 all came from this one manufacturer. So here's the outcome of the lawsuits. There were municipal and state lawsuits toward this company. And so Mallinckrodt last year agreed to pay $1.7 billion to resolve thousands of lawsuits brought by state and local governments and opioid addicted individuals who accuse the company of helping cause a public health crisis. And the settlement funds were supposed to be paid through 2030. Okay, and they were meant to help state health departments buy life-saving overdose reversal drugs like Narcan, and also pay for the treatment costs, the rehabilitation costs for people who took the prescription drugs and became addicted to them. So far, about 1.3 billion of the 1.7 billion has yet to be paid, and this is where the hedge funds come in. I'm gonna stop for comment, Cenk. What do you think about this so far?
Yeah, this is a disastrous idea. It was also inevitable, and it is really important that the courts find a way to make sure this does not happen.
So let me tell you guys about what the idea is, because I haven't gotten to those details yet.
I know, I'm with you. But I just want to say, look, hedge fund guys are always going to try to stiff people on their bills. And it's not like, it's capitalism. They're not gonna just give over billions of dollars in money, right? They're gonna fight tooth and nail, and it's the job of the government to protect you, as they were supposed to do with these opioids. They didn't. Individuals and states had to sue to get redress of grievances, and now, of course, the wealthy are coming in to undo it all to begin with. All these opioids were heroin to be in the first place. They just legalized it and let guys in suits sell it. Once we allowed for bribery, all of this was inevitable.
Now, the worst part about all of this is there is a plan in place involving these hedge funds to essentially assist this manufacturer in avoiding having to pay out the money. Okay, remember I told you that 1.3 billion of the 1.7 billion has yet to be paid to the victims of the opioid crisis that was partly caused by this manufacturer just pumping out pills into the market. So Mallinckrodt is talking to hedge funds about filing for bankruptcy and avoiding payments intended to help people addicted to opioids. As part of a prearranged deal, the manufacturer will propose to write off about $1 billion from what it still owes to addiction victims and state and local governments, while making a one-time payment of roughly $250 million. So the group of hedge funds is essentially wanting the company to go through another bankruptcy, Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and through that restructuring, the hedge funds would then be the owners of the pharmaceutical company, the manufacturer here, and they would write off the bulk of what remains owed to the opioid victims and only pay out just a small fraction, $250 million. The funds under their plan would become Mallinckrodt's new owners following an exit from Chapter 11, writing down some of their billions in debt in exchange for stakes in the restructured company, the people said. They could stand to lose out if the company's stock plummets in value after it exits from bankruptcy, but they could also be big winners if Mallinckrodt buys back stock, which they certainly will, or pays out dividends to its new shareholders, the people said.
Yeah, so first of all, this is really important. They're not bankrupt. The Wall Street Journal says in the article, like, well, the hedge fund guys are worried that they are less profitable now and they're worried about their investment. Yeah, that's called capitalism. So what? You guys sold a drug that was highly addictive. You did it on purpose. You knew that it was going to not only get a lot of people addicted, but get a lot of people killed. And you profited off of it. You got caught. You did a settlement. And now you're saying, yeah, I know, but that's going to hurt my profits. I know, that's why you were sued, because we want to hurt your profits, because you profited off of their deaths, right? And so now they're saying, yeah, but look, if we just declare a false bankruptcy, we'll just pretend we're bankrupt, it's going to wipe away our debts. Now, if they did this normally and the other end of the transaction was another company or private interest, they wouldn't let them get away with it, because then both sides are fighting for $1 billion, and the other guys would sue them to oblivion, and they'd fight this out forever and ever, and one side would win. But the hedge fund guys are thinking the other side is just the government. It's much easier to beat. And remember, all we gotta do is grease these politicians. They do anything they want. Remember when they legalized heroin for us? You think that they're gonna fight us tooth and nail? No, they're gonna let us keep, if not the entire billion, a giant chunk of the billion if we do the scam. But if they're allowed to do this scam, then anyone who is not bankrupt can declare bankruptcy to not pay their bills, especially bills to the American taxpayer.
This happens all the time with corporations. I want you guys to really absorb this, okay? Because of the bankruptcy bill that Joe Biden championed, students are unable to discharge their student loan debt, even in the case of a bankruptcy. However, corporations that are doing well, are actually very profitable, are able to declare bankruptcy in an effort to skirt financial responsibility as a result of litigation. That is exactly what this is. And by the way, I want to provide the evidence for how profitable this company is, right? Because back in May, executives from Mallinckrodt had a shareholder meeting. And during that shareholder meeting, here's what we found. Around the time that Silver Point and other funds approached the company over plans to back out of the settlement in the spring, it had about $480 million of cash on its balance sheet.
I wish I was that bankrupt.
God, seriously. On its balance sheet and around $200 million available to be drawn under a bank line of credit. And it wasn't in default under any of its debts. And that's according to public filings and people familiar with the matter. During that shareholder meeting, the executives are like, oh, we're doing real well, man. It's just so brazen. This whole thing is so brazen.
So guys, if they, like I said, if they get away with this, then any company can say, I'm not paying any of my bills, okay? Especially if I owe the taxpayers, I'm gonna screw them. I'm gonna do a fake bankruptcy. Look at how the Wall Street Journal took those facts and how they framed it. Because Wall Street Journal is written for, of, and by corporations. So they're gonna spin the entire story into, oh, poor Mallinckrodt, poor hedge fund guys. Listen, they had to do this. Now, they never clarify in the article that they're sitting on $480 million and not at all bankrupt, right? Instead, they wrote this sentence about the hedge fund guys. They also argued that if Mallinckrodt continued to make payments to the opioid trust, it would hurt the company's finances and could breach legal obligations to investors, according to people familiar with the matter. The people familiar with the matter are the hedge fund guys that are doing the scam in the first place. They plant the story in the Wall Street Journal, and the Wall Street Journal tells you, well, they're having trouble with their finances. What does that mean? What does that mean? Are you bankrupt or are you not bankrupt? Everyone has trouble with their finances. Hey, we thought we were gonna make $500 million and we only made $400 million. Oh, trouble with your finances. Such a vague term, but it gives you the appearance that they're struggling, when they're not at all struggling.
Yeah, and later in the piece, they write about how much cash they have on hand and how much they have for their line of credit, but it's disconnected in the piece.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
And it, like for the first, I mean, you read pages of this article and you're thinking, these poor guys, are they going bankrupt? And at the end you find out, oh yeah, by the way, just kidding. We have some sort of obligation to tell you that they're not at all bankrupt, right. Okay? So anyways, look guys, there's one other element to this. So not only is this a scam to rip off the taxpayers and to the people who got hurt in these situations, but at the end, once they go through the bankruptcy, the senior lenders get, and the senior investors have the most rights.
Exactly.
Well, it's these hedge fund guys.
Exactly.
So it's a win-win for them. They're like, okay, we do this thing, that way we stiff the average American for $1 billion, and we take control of the whole company, and we get all the profits. And by the way, I might just take that $480 million and put it in my pocket, which hedge fund guys do all the time. A lot of the companies that you know, Sears, Toys R Us, etc., went bankrupt because hedge fund guys bought them, took their cash, and put it in their pockets, bought mansions and yachts with it, and then go, oh well, they ran out of money.
So after news of this little scheme broke, this is how sick the system is, right? After news of this scheme broke, yesterday, according to numbers in the stock market actually rewarded this manufacturer, okay? Shares of the company rose 53.3%.
Of course, you know why? Because the market doesn't care about morality.
Yeah, it does not.
The market doesn't care about American citizens or family members of the folks who died because of these drugs. The market thinks, oh, this is a good scam. Oh, bravo on the scam. You might rip off $1 billion. Well, man, your stock price is going up because you're now going to be more valuable. You might be up to, well, maybe you're not going to get the whole billion back, but we're going to price in that you're going to get hundreds of millions of dollars back through this fraud. Now, look, there's a way to end this, by the way. You sign onto a settlement that involves the government and it involves state governments in this case, and then you renege on that, we should put you in prison.
Totally agree.
But like, if hedge fund guys heard that, corporate CEOs heard that, they'd be like, oh, outrageous. So you're saying we should be put in prison for just for stealing $1 billion? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.